You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Monday, January 24th, 2020. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we are going to be talking about fear. Now, a couple months ago, we talked about fear of the Lord, which is one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, but that's not what we are talking about here. Today, we're going to be talking about fear in the way that we usually use that word. We're talking about fear like worry or anxiety. And the reason why we are talking about fear is because in the past couple months, a lot of us have been dealing with fear or even living in fear in a way like we never have before. Because really, the world is a little bit of a scarier place now than it was before. Perhaps you've experienced how scary it can feel. Maybe you've headed out to Mass and you, while sitting there, have looked around and seen the entire congregation in masks. It not only looks strange, but even to an adult, that looks a little bit scary. And perhaps you've been told that you shouldn't get too close to other people, and even your friends that you should avoid hugging them or being too close to them. Well, that feels strange as well, and it can also feel a little bit scary. Now, both of these things are good, and I hope that an adult has explained to you that by keeping our distance from other people, we can not only protect ourselves from getting sick, but also protect others from getting sick as well. So being cautious is good, but it is not okay to live in fear or to allow fear to control us. Now, what does this mean? And I know for those of you listening that this is a tricky line. And before we go into any of the content this week, I want to make it very clear that you should obey your parents, that you should carefully discern with your own family how you live your life. And what we are talking about here is just the bigger concepts of what it means to be a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ in the world, and what it means to deal with fear as a Christian. So what is fear? Well, fear, of course, is worry or anxiety, and we all feel fear. If you are at a zoo and a lion escapes and is chasing you, you should feel fear. There are certain things that are just scary and frightening. We live in a world where this fear seems to be sort of hidden and sneaky and sticking around for a long time. But if we decide to live in this fear and let the fear to control us and be the thing that helps us make all of our decisions, well, then we're on a slippery slope to disconnecting ourselves from God. And here's why. Well, think about what it is to be afraid, especially to be afraid of sickness and death. Why do we allow that to be such a big fear? Well, if you boil it all the way down, to be afraid of our own death is to feel that there isn't anything after death. Why do people get so afraid of death? Because they have forgotten that Jesus came and conquered death. Now, before we go any further, please remember, Sprouts, that life is a tremendous gift, that life in all forms is seen as sacred, and the life that you were given was the greatest gift ever. God created you, He designed you, He wants you to live, and He wants you to protect your life. But that is not the ultimate. This life is good. Protect your life, protect your body, be healthy, be safe. But it's not the end. When we fear, we think that this life is all that there is, and that is a lie. So Sprouts, all week we're going to be talking about fear. We have some super great saints that dealt with fear and show us how to avoid living in fear and instead live in hope. But for this week, I have two challenges for you. First of all, I want you to talk to your parents about this because I am not your parent and you live in a situation that I don't fully know. So it is, of course, your parents that will help you decide how best to live your life. But the thing that I want you to do today is to say this simple prayer, and we will repeat it each day this week. The prayer is, Jesus, I trust in you. Free me from fear. Jesus, I trust in you. Free me from fear. And please know that as we start school and start getting back into larger groups and communities, you remain in my prayers. I hope that you are safe and healthy and happy, but that you always remember that we live in a world with a Savior, and that while we should be cautious, we should never be controlled by fear.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
Catholic Sprouts podcast will be taking a break next week to enjoy the last little tiny bit of summer. I hope that you are well, both physically and spiritually, and I will see you after 1 week's break.